Hi folks, popped in for work, I'm finished, and onto YouTube, and the leaders' debate was there. So I thought we'd watch it together, just waiting on it resuming, then I'll put it onto the larger screen, and we can sit and watch it together, if you so wish. So, we'll swap screens once it gets started. I'm sitting comfortably, I've got a beer, I'm ready for the bullshit. So, good evening all. We're going to I've decided to catch a wee bit of the leaders' debate, and I thought I'd invite you to watch it with me. No doubt you are watching it anyway. So you will.
Welcome back. We've asked our participants in tonight's debate to ask a question of one other person. Before the break, Carla Denyer, Penny Mordaunt and Nigel Farage had their go. Now it's time for the other four candidates to ask their questions, starting this time with Angela Rayner. Angela Rayner.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Penny, would you allow Nigel Farage into the Tory party?
Let's see now. I'm a Brexiteer. I believe that if you can't reform European institutions, you should be prepared to leave them. I set up a business before getting into Parliament, so that's why I always back business. And I believe in rewarding personal responsibility. You might think I have a lot in common with Nigel, but what I'm standing against is letting you in and letting you tax the hell out of people. Nigel is helping you do that. So I think we've probably got less in common than you might imagine.
So that's a no then, and apart from your rubbish about us taxing people when you've taxed people the highest in 70 years, which you keep forgetting and you keep going on about 4 10 years.
Yes. Let me respond to that. At the end of the next Parliament, yes, we have had a high tax burden, not, as I said earlier, on low and middle income earners, but overall it has been high. At the end of the next Parliament on our plans, it will come down. Labour will take it to a record high. What they haven't told you in this campaign is what taxes and on what people. Okay. She couldn't deny capital gains tax earlier on. What? She can't deny fuel duty. Council
Thank you,
tax.
Penny Mordaunt.
Not only do you not listen to me, you don't listen to the public.
Both Angela Rayner and Penny Mordaunt.
Council tax. They trebled it in Wales. They need to tell you how they're going to pay for their plans.
Stephen Flynn, time for your question.
It's like being back in the Commons. Angela, it took 4.5 months and the death or injury of almost 100,000 civilians in Gaza for the Labour Party to back a ceasefire. On day one of a Labour government, will you end arms sales to Israel?
Stephen, you know as well as I do, what happened on the 7th of October was barbaric and Israel had the right to defend itself. However, since then, the absolute loss of innocent lives, thousands of innocent lives, everyone in the House, everyone of all political persuasions have been pushing for a ceasefire, as well as our international counterparts. But if we were in government, we would immediately review, as we've been asking the Conservatives, the legal advice on arms sales to Israel, and we will comply with international law.
Thank you very much indeed, Stephen Flynn, for your question about the horrific scenes we've all witnessed following the Hamas attacks of October the 7th and the Israeli military action in Gaza since. Thank you for that question. Daisy Cooper, your question.
Everyone else's.
My question is for Penny Mordaunt. So it's about trust. The Conservatives promised to recruit 6,000 more GPs and didn't. The Conservatives promised to build 40 new hospitals, many of which has been make-believe. And since 2015, the Conservatives have missed their cancer treatment target every single year. Why can anybody, or how can anybody, trust the word the Conservatives say about protecting the NHS?
Well, we have met many of our manifesto commitments from the last election, including recruiting public sector workers. And that's why you can see we're making improvements in many public services, as we spoke about earlier. We have a particular issue with the NHS, but we are increasing healthcare professionals, many more doctors, many more nurses. But integrity is vital. It is not right to say that you are not going to increase taxes and are. It's not right to say that you are going to support the nuclear deterrent when you voted against it.
Thank you.
It's not right to say one
Thank you, Penny Mordaunt. We're going to move on to Rian Akio's question next. Thank you.
My question is also to Angela Rayner. Given the convergence between Labour and the Conservatives on public spending, maybe I should ask if Labour would accept Penny Mordaunt into your party. But I'll ask this. Gordon Brown said child poverty is a scar on the soul of Britain. Now, is it the likely incoming Labour government's two-child benefit cap or the £18 billion worth of cuts to public services which will make the situation worse?
Well, you're absolutely right to recognise that child poverty is a scourge, and as someone who grew up in poverty, I absolutely know that we have to tackle it, and that's why we'd have a strategic number 10 unit that would look at tackling child poverty. But it's not just about one particular lever. We talked before about housing. That employment, insecure work is a problem for people, low wages. So we're going to tackle all of the issues that will help, and the growing of the economy will give us more money in our public services so we can do those things. But uncosted spending commitments is not going to help our economy, because the Tories did that and they crashed our economy. So our fiscal rules are absolutely cast iron.
Thank you, Angela Rayner. Thank you for all of your questions directed across the stage this evening. We're going to our final question now, and this is a question on politics itself and the faith in it. I'm looking around. I know that Samran's here with your question for our candidates this evening. Samran.
People have lost faith in politics. We feel disconnected from our representatives and sceptical that you will deliver on your promises. The public simply doesn't trust our system anymore. What one change can you make to restore trust in politics?
OK, we're going to keep this succinct because we're running out of time, so 30 seconds if you can. Please, Daisy Cooper, one change, one offer.
You're absolutely right that trust in politics is broken, and the Liberal Democrats have always said it's not just about who's in power, it's about what you do with power. So we believe in devolving power to local communities so they have more say over what they believe in, and we want proportional representation so that every single vote of every single person actually counts in a general election.
Thank you. Angela Rayner.
You're absolutely right to say about trust in politics. That's why when I've spoke on this panel, there's things that we'd really like to do that we can't do, and we've been honest and upfront about that. But I also think we need our politicians who make the rules to play by the rules as well. So bringing back integrity and ethics into our politics, which is what Keir Starmer will do in Labour, is exactly what we need to do, because people cannot go around, as they have done, breaking the rules and think they can get away with it. The Prime Minister did, the previous Prime Minister that has done, and I think that's undermined all of us as politicians.
Penny Mordaunt.
Well, we're at the dawn of a new parliament, and I think if we want integrity back, then people need to be honest about their manifestos. The only party on this platform that is going to cut your taxes is the Conservative Party. A vote for any other party will increase your taxes. Higher taxes, higher taxes, higher taxes, higher taxes, higher taxes, higher taxes, and higher taxes. Start with honesty in manifestos. Labour have 3 weeks to do that.
Thank you very much indeed, Penny Mordaunt.
How about some honesty about the fact that freezing thresholds has meant higher taxes under the Conservatives whilst they've been cutting public spending? And this is the honesty and integrity that we're looking for. We need politicians to be truthful with people about the challenges that we face. We need good judgment. Yet we have a First Minister in Wales, a Labour First Minister, who accepted a £200,000 donation from a convicted environmental polluter. That's poor judgment, and I wonder if Angela Rayner would have accepted it.
Thank you very much indeed. Carla Denyer.
I think one of the reasons that people have lost faith and trust in their politicians is that most elections there are hundreds of MPs who are totally safe in their seats because we have an unfair voting system where the number of votes cast does not match with the number of seats elected. That's why the Green Party would change our voting system in general elections to a proportional system, the fair system that almost every other country in Europe has. Do you know there's only one other country in Europe that still uses first past the post? It's Belarus. And why do we not have a fair voting system? Because Conservatives and the Labour Party block it.
Thank you. Stephen Flynn.
In my view, you should always vote, if you are doing well in life, for the politician who will make sure that others can get on in life. And if you're not doing so well in life, you should always vote for the politician who's going to make things better for you. I think that's a nice and good starting point in politics. The Westminster system, the way it operates, is broken. It's been built on failure, Brexit being the most obvious one of recent times. Hold your politicians to high standards and vote for what you believe in.
Thank you very much indeed. Nigel Farage.
I do agree that the first past the post system has led to the two big parties. Well, one was big, not after today's polls, but there we are. They're both mushy sort of SDP parties in the middle. I would change the voting system. I think the House of Lords is an abomination. The fact that it's filled up with party donors is a complete disgrace. There must be an elected element. And finally, let's give the people the ability to call more referendums so they can decide the biggest issue of their lives.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Nigel Farage. I'll just bring Stephen Flynn as in response to some of the things improving trust in politics and ending our broken politics.
Well, and I'm just surprised that Nigel Farage wants another referendum on Scottish independence. I'm sure there's a lot of folk back in Scotland who'd be...
Oh, come on, you don't want to lose again, do you?
Who'd be very keen to see that happen. Well, if you're so confident, if everyone else is so confident about that, let's put it to the test. Let's put power back in the hands of the Scottish people and take it out of politicians at Westminster. I'm sure the Labour Party would back that premise.
You had your pop.
Well, I'll put that to Angela Rayner and then come to Daisy Cooper.
But I think over the last 3 years, trust in politics has just been blown to pieces. The Conservatives have taken a wrecking ball to standards in public life, and people are sick to the back teeth of the lying and law-breaking from Boris Johnson, the mini-budget from Liz Truss, and the failures from Rishi Sunak. It is time for change.
Penny Mordaunt, would you like to respond directly to that?
Well, look, I think we have an opportunity now. We're going into a new parliament. I know that my colleagues up and down the country are doing a good job in their constituencies. They care about the people that they represent. We have to hold individuals to account. But if we can't be honest about what is in our manifestos, then that doesn't bode well for that parliament. I say it again to Angela, 3 weeks, tell us where your tax rises are coming from.
OK, Angela Rayner, quickly, and Maria Yorath.
Tories talk about higher taxes. Taxing working people. The Tories, judging by their record, they have done that. And Stephen,
I think that record has been well played a little this evening.
I want our nations to work together. I think we're better together. And the one thing we have got in common is we need to get rid of the Tory government in Westminster, and that's why people need to vote Labour.
The Tory government's forever by bashing Scotland's independence. That's what we should do.
And just briefly, no wonder people are fed up. It's the PPE corruption. It's the Downing Street parties during COVID. We need to hold politicians to higher standards than we've seen in recent years.
Thank you very much indeed.
Well, the reason I focused on a fair voting system, I mean, there's so much that could be better in politics, but the reason I focused on that is that when MPs have safe seats, they're not held to account. Short of a serious breach of the law and being found to be a criminal, you can do pretty much anything if you're an MP in a safe seat and you'll be re-elected. Holding MPs to account, a big part of that is making sure that they are properly answerable to the electorate.
Thank you. So a little variety of ideas in answer to that question. Thank you very much indeed for that, and thank you for all of your responses. So some big ideas on how we might change our politics going forward. See what you thought of them. That's it for the questions tonight. But it is now time for our candidates' closing statements, and our first this evening is with Carla Denyer.
I'm going to be straight with you. The choice you make on the 4th of July isn't just about which party you vote for. If we look beyond the finger-pointing and squabbling, politics is about choosing the kind of future we want for our children. We all know the Tories are toast, and Labour will form the next government. But are they offering real change, or is it the same broken politics dressed up with a red rosette? We deserve better. So as you watch this with your friends or family, think of who you want on your side in the next Parliament, making sure your voice is heard. The Green Party is on the cusp of breaking through in seats up and down the country. And Green MPs will never stop defending our future, protecting our NHS from privatisation and pushing the next Labour government to think bigger and act bolder. They'll tell you that's not how it works. They'll tell you you have to vote for more of the same. But a vote is a choice. And on the 4th of July, you can choose real hope.
Hey, David, see you next Saturday.
Thank you very much, Penny Mordaunt.
Tonight, Angela Rayner has proved one thing. Labour will put up your taxes.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Labour's track
Taxing again.
record of economic hardship speaks for itself. The lesson of the last few years is that when Labour are in charge, unemployment rises and tax rises. They will do it all over again. They're going to tax your pension. They're going to tax your home. And what you need to know from tonight is that they are also going to push up your bills. These are hard truths, but better face them now than regret them later. It's your choice, it's your vote, and it's your future in your hands. So, if you value your pension, don't give a blank cheque to Labour. If you value your pension, vote Conservative. If you value your home, vote Conservative. If you value your future, vote Conservative.
Thank you, Penny Mordaunt. Daisy Cooper.
Our country is crying out for change, and it's not hard to see why. Day in, day out, all over the country, people are striving just to get on in life. But under this Conservative government,
You know what they say, Lorraine?
too often,
Labour keep
it feels like
poor
we're
because
fighting
poor
a broken
people vote for
system.
Labour.
Nothing works. Under Ed Davey's leadership, the Liberal Democrats are promising a fair deal for the British people. We will fix the NHS and social care, tackle the cost of living crisis, and stop filthy raw sewage being dumped into our rivers and seas. A vote for the Liberal Democrats is a vote for a strong local champion, a vote for a fair deal, and a vote to help deliver the change that we all so desperately need. And in so many parts of the UK, a vote for the Liberal Democrats is the best chance of finally voting this disastrous Conservative government out of
Don't forget that,
office.
folks. A vote for it. The
Thank
reason
you,
why
Angela Rayner.
poor people are poor.
The
is because
choice
poor
at
people
this
vote for Labour,
election
and Labour
is
keep
simple.
poor people poor.
More chaos with the Conservatives or change with Labour. Imagine waking up on the 5th of July to 5 more years of a chaotic Tory government. Years of high tax and low growth, while everything gets more expensive. Crime going unpunished. NHS waiting lists getting longer. The Tories have left you and our country worse off. A vote for Labour
this is our
is a
folks,
vote
we'll
to
have a
end
chat.
the chaos.
A vote for Labour.
We know we can't
Poor
tax our
people
way
poor
to
because
growth.
poor people vote for Labour.
Labour's plan for growth and wealth creation is about stability,
If you're in
investment
Scotland,
and
vote
reform.
SNP.
Economic stability is change. We will bring down NHS waiting times with 40,000 new weekly appointments. And we'll secure our streets and our borders with more neighbourhood police and border security command. Vote Labour for the change.
Thank you, Stephen Flynn.
Let's start with the good news. The Tories are finished. 14 years of Cameron, Clegg, May, Johnson, Truss and Sunak, that's finally coming to a close. So now our attention must turn to what comes next. And at a time when there should be hope and optimism, there is so little on display. Keir Starmer's status quo offers us yet more cuts and yet more Brexit. Well, in the SNP, we don't accept that cosy Westminster consensus. We believe in better investment in our NHS, action on the cost of living crisis, rejoining the European single market, economic growth by delivering net zero, Scotland's future in Scotland's hands. So on July 4th, vote for that future. Vote SNP to put Scotland's interests first.
Stephen Flynn, thank you. Nigel Farage.
Unlike the rest, I don't need a script. I've come out of retirement, back into politics, with passion in my heart. And I'll tell you, Britain is broken. Everyone knows it.
You fucking done it, mate.
Needs reform. The election is over under our system. We know that Keir Starmer's going to win and probably have quite a big majority. The question is, who will lead the opposition? Because for democracy to work, there has to be a voice of opposition. And I put it to you that Ed Davey of the Liberal Democrats won't do that, because he actually agrees with Labour on most things. Rishi Sunak won't do it. Well, he'll probably be in California by then. Anyway, and the Tory party is split down the middle and about to implode in this election. I say to you, I will stand up against open borders. I will stand up and say those that come illegally across the channel should be deported. I will stand up and fight for the millions of men and women running small businesses. I have the courage to take on the mob. Please join the revolt.
You are the fucking mob.
Liam, up yours.
I'm sure there'll be people who were thinking, why is this guy from Wales being invited onto a debate being broadcast across the whole of the UK? Well, firstly, I hope some of what I have said has resonated with you, wherever you are, and that you agree we need to do politics in a different way. But the fact that some do think that reflects what Plaid Cymru is all about. We are here to offer a positive vision of what Wales could be, knowing that time and time again, our aspirations go unheard by Westminster governments, be that Labour or Conservatives. Now, the truth is, throughout the UK, there are communities who feel ignored and overlooked, and I hope you stand up for your community. And for me, it'll always be about standing up for Wales. Now, it's high time that the Conservatives were kicked out of power, but Labour will have to be held to account too. And Welsh voters can do that through Plaid Cymru MPs and their vision for fairness and ambition for Wales. Vote Plaid Cymru on July.
Thank you very much indeed. And that brings us to the end of the ITV Election Debate 2024. I hope it's been useful. Thank you to our questioners and to the 7 party representatives for sharing their plans. The power is now with you, because in 3 weeks' time, you get to vote to decide. Thanks for watching.
Well, what do you make of that, folks? We'll stay on for 10-15 minutes and have a wee chat, shall we? About the bit that at least that I was able to cover. Now, absolutely unbelievable to hear Morden talk about taxes when the Conservative Party have put taxes up to the highest level they've been since the Second World War. As to Angela Rayner denying that Labour will put up taxes, they will. Absolutely no doubt about it. And they will stick to the Conservative policy of not changing the base rate. So every time somebody gets a pay rise, they move up a tax grade, the Treasury takes more. So let's see what you lot made here. Chris says, what a lot of pish. Millie says, utter rubbish. And Lorraine says, her ears are feckin' bleeding. Stephen Charlton says, didn't make much of that. Kevin tells us that Penny laughed at. Lipson tells us it was a load of pish. Davy Keane. That's all she was on about, Penny Morden. He's talking about tax, for fuck's sake. Millie says VAT for starters. No, they won't put VAT up. They won't put up income tax. They won't put up national insurance. They won't put up VAT. Everything else will go up. And Anne says, you know what they say about reform? Reformed meat. Nothing good, just full of crap. That's a good description of the company that calls themselves Reform UK, because it's not a political party, folks. It is not registered with the electoral register. It shouldn't be allowed to stand. Or if it is registered, it's not registered as a party. But saying that, they're all limited companies anyway. And Harry makes a good point. We have been listening to the same pish since these debates started under Tony bloody Blair. It is the same bollocks, the same bloody merry-go-round, and the same pish. I said something important there. And that's where the SNP have been different in Scotland. Poor people have traditionally voted Labour, and Labour have traditionally kept poor people poor, because poor people vote fucking Labour. Here in Scotland, the SNP broke the mould. Here in Scotland, for the last 11 or 12 years, there's been a council tax freeze. Think about that. Here in Scotland, since the SNP came to power, we've done away with tuition fees, saving families huge amounts of money, especially those on the upper incomes, huge amounts of money, because it's generally their children who make their way to university. The other thing, when we talk about it was normally their children who went to university, the SNP have broke the mould in that. Universities now have to have a quota for people from less advantaged backgrounds, and it's working. It means that local universities are serving local peoples again. No having to pay the bedroom tax. Thank you, Harry. The social contract here in Scotland is fantastic, but we're having to waste funds, limited funds, because we're in this bloody union to mitigate the worst of Westminster's excesses. What we can't do is escape them without independence. And you're right, Hetty, slogans, promises and fakery. And we've had that since Blair. In fact, we've had it since Thatcher. But slogans, promises and fakery. It's the 30-second concentration tactic rather than reading. And you're right. Now I put up in the comments in the show the day, Labour's manifesto, the Tories manifesto, the Greens manifesto. Go read them. And then when the Scottish parties release their manifestos, I read those too.
Go on.
I don't see Alba. What's Alba got to do with us? Alba's not making a breakthrough in this election. If they're going to make any breakthrough, they will make it in the Scottish parliamentary election. There we don't mind, because there we are going to make it clear that a majority of pro-independence MSPs is a mandate for independence to be called. Chris, I mean, the fact that the Alpha Party and the Greens are running in this election, fair dues. This is a democracy. They're not going to do well. They're going to whack their party coffers, which is silly, because in a couple of years' time we're having a Scottish election, and that's where they should be standing at this point in time, where they might have a chance of picking up a seat. But they're picking nothing up in Westminster, and that means they're wasting huge amounts of party funds that could be saved towards an election at Holyrood, where they might make an impact. Might. Highly unlikely. But I'm a Democrat. I might not like the fact that the splits in the party the splits in the movement came around, but they have. And we just have to soak it up when it comes to a Scottish election. But these people should be thinking tactically when it comes to a Westminster election. The fact that they're not thinking tactically at a Westminster election, which would diminish a mandate to pressurise Westminster, is mental. Mental. Anyway, we go. Yeah. Aye. People keep reminding me that it's Duguid. David Duguid. Because I kept saying David Duguid. Kevin Stevens, always on form. I've been impressed with him. I've been really impressed with him. He's well informed. He's well across his brief. He's on the ball. John, the truck driving legend. Well, John, you're absolutely correct. Even as a working person, the benefits that we receive for living in Scotland and being under an SNP government do mount up substantially. When you talk about your annual savings on prescriptions, your annual savings on eyesight tests, which are free, your annual savings on council tax, water, nae road tolls, nae peak rail fares, for women, the savings if they get into public building, don't need to buy sanitary products, they're free, that sort of thing. But we still have huge levels of poverty, and that's because too much of our spending and our tax revenues are done elsewhere. I'm hoping that Reagan, Elite and I can do a wee programme where we can dedicate it to the differences between the social contract the Scottish people have with the Scottish government and the English people have with the English government. Now, what we got? We've put the fact that they can't think tactically tells you they're not up to running a country. They're not even up to running parties at this point in time, we've put. If you look at the Greens, they were always considered a bunch of hippies and nobody took them seriously. They've been around since fucking Santa was a boy. And have they made a breakthrough? As I say, Nigel Farage is probably the only one to break the mould with his Brexit party. But that was the European elections. Chris, I'll probably be working on election night. So I can't sit up all night. And I'll probably be working the following night and all. So no, I'll not be sitting up all night doing an election special. The reason why I come on the night was because when I come in and I put YouTube on, there were multiple streams of this debate tonight. As you know, I don't watch mainstream television. I've seen some viewing in the comments on the two Davies have a go at me for that. I don't watch mainstream television. As you can hear, it's quiet here. I don't watch it. I'm not interested in propaganda being pumped into my house. As I've said before, I did a speech outside the BBC in Scotland here, in Glasgow, where everybody was expecting me to have a go at their bias. And I had a go at their effect on the mental health of the people of Scotland. Because I studied the cringe. I know all about the cringe. The cringe that set in 1979 after they rigged that referendum for Home Rule. The cringe that set in 1913 when the Home Rule Bill didn't pass. Or well, it did pass, but the First World War came along and kiboshed it. Seems to be every time we get near to Scottish independence, another war pops up some fucking where. But no, I did a speech outside the BBC and it surprised everybody. I'm sure somebody can find it. Independent Scotland made a short of it. And I sincerely mean this. I worry about the damage that the BBC in Scotland have done to the mental health of the people of Scotland. Because for the minute you get up in the morning, to the minute you go to bed at night, the BBC tells you you're shite. Your institutions are shite, your government's shite, your country's shite, and they tell you your ability to run anything is shite. Which is absolutely phenomenal as Scotland invented the modern world. Absolutely. How did we manage that when we're so shite? Can you ask? Well, I'll put this up. Can I ask, why is it we keep going on about the Scotland Act? The only treaty that matters to is the Act of Union. No. The Scotland Acts are subsequent bills that govern what the Scottish Parliament can do. The Treaty of Union was the treaty that constituted the single Parliament of Westminster. The single Parliament in Westminster then created the devolved Parliament in Scotland. Got to remember, the real Parliament of Scotland sits in Westminster. And if you don't understand how that works, go and have a look at how Westminster was constituted. And you can find how it was constituted in the Treaty of Union. Not the Acts of Union, the Treaty of Union. And it's basically a trade treaty, believe it or not. And the Acts are the things that enable that trade treaty to work properly, supposedly. So, I've spoken about this with people before. The reason why we had things like evil English votes for English laws is because there is two parliaments sit there. And evil was done under the English Grand Committee. The Scottish Grand Committee still sits there as well. That's the original Scottish Parliament. Go and look it up. And DJ, you says you stopped watching. You says you stopped watching live TV. You only get facts from the internet. Well, I still look at the mainstream media's headlines and then go and dig into what's behind those headlines. I like to go to sources. So whatever a headline is, if it's a government one, I'll have a look at what they're talking about. I'll find out what the debate was, and then I'll go to Hansard and get it in text form, blow by blow, what each MP said, what the speaker said, that sort of thing. I'm too honest, Millie. Oh, come on, what's the bloody problem here? Why did you never run as an MSP, David? I'm too honest. I'd be cracking too many jaws. I'm an ordinary Joe. The level of bullshit and honey-flavoured turd cakes that these people have to eat, I don't have the patience for that. I really don't have the patience for that. I'll be striding across that chamber and dragging wee shites out of desks and bouncing them off a flare for telling porky pies. Is it too late to have a big dark rum? Harry, no, fill your boots, mate. Fill your boots. John, the truck driving legend, is the real Scottish Parliament still in recess? It was never in recess. It sits in Westminster. It's called the Scottish Grand Committee. All right. You see, read the Treaty of Union. It's why David and I were bringing up in today's show Starmer's reform of the House of Lords. Don't know how he's going to manage that. Kicking hereditary peers out of the House of Lords when 16 hereditary peers is a founding platform of the Scottish, of the GB Parliament. But hey ho. Yeah, you're welcome, Harry. It's never too late to have a wee snifter. Hi, Karen, how are you? A Davy rant in Hollywood would be brilliant, wouldn't it, Millie? I don't know. To be fair, I was during the referendum known as being quite diplomatic. The drop in standards in public life, I suppose, especially with our politicians, has really enraged me, I suppose. Hi, Sandra. So, but let's have a look. Stephen wants to talk about the Alien Act. The Alien Act was used to force us into that union, basically. And it wasn't really going that well. But they did manage to scupper the Darien project. They stopped ships returning to Scotland with any wealth that they'd gathered. And of course the pirates plundered them. So that put the ennobled here in Scotland into huge amounts of debt. And that's why we have 16 lords, hereditary lords, in the House of Lords doing that road. We were sold out. We'd never got a vote on joining the union. And when the union was formed, there were riots everywhere in Scotland. And Chris, a big shout out to the boys tomorrow at the football. Aye, it's a big task with Germany. Salvo digging up the piss on this fake union. That's all very well. And they're doing good research, DJ. But as David and I have pointed out, this old shit is really interesting shit. But it's all shit. This is the 21st century. It's a democracy. Therefore, the only way out of this union is via the ballot box. As was pointed out by the Supreme Court. Can I know your name right, John? Okay. There's a bit of that in it too, Derek. I, John, the truck driving legend, I bought and sold for English gold such a parcel of rogues in a nation. Rabbi Burns. And that is why there is. And interesting, as I was mentioning, when one of the lines died out, they had to promote wee Jack McConnell to a hereditary peer. So they did. They had to promote wee Jack to hereditary peer to keep that part of the treaty alive. To keep that parliament doing that road legitimate. So how Keir's going to get rid of hereditary peers, I don't fucking know. But it's interesting. Matt, you're absolutely right. English politics, Tories out, Labour in for a term, maybe two at the most, and then they out, and Tories back in. And it's the same circle of shite. So the only way to break it is to put your X in the SNP box. Folks, thanks for joining me tonight. I'm going to have to call it a night. I enjoyed this wee impromptu live. I quite enjoyed it. I just come in and that was there, and it was on a break, so I thought, let's watch the rest of it together. So thanks for joining us. Viewing figures are great. And thanks for the super chats. You've all been very generous today. I mean, very generous today. As I say, David and I are back Monday, but you never know. Every now and again, I like to jump on, so keep a wee eye out. And but if I don't see you before it, I'll see you on Monday afternoon for the two Davies.